Emma always believed that life would gradually fall into place once she worked hard enough. At 25, she was in a decent job, trying to make her mark in the corporate world. However, despite her dedication, nothing seemed to go as planned. She had big dreams but was stuck in a routine that drained her energy. Her job was demanding, and it felt like no matter how hard she worked, she couldn't get ahead. Every day, she woke up early, hoping for a breakthrough that never came. The bills kept piling up, and the small salary she earned barely covered the essentials. The pressure from her family didn't help. They often reminded her that she wasn't getting any younger and that it was time to get serious about life, find a stable career and settle down. Every conversation with her parents seemed to focus on how she needed to succeed, but their definition of success felt like a different world. Emma felt the weight of their expectations, but she didn't know how to meet them. Her dreams felt out of reach, and the harder she tried, the more distant they seemed. At work, Emma was surrounded by colleagues who seemed to have it all together. They were confident, climbing the corporate ladder with ease. But Emma wasn't like them. She often felt overlooked, as though her hard work wasn't enough to be noticed. She was always second-guessing herself, questioning if she was cut out for this career. Each failed project, each missed opportunity, only made her more doubtful. Every time she looked at her friends who seemed to have everything figured out, she felt a sharp pang of envy. How were they so sure of their paths? Why did it feel like she was stuck in a loop of uncertainty and disappointment? The constant self-doubt gnawed at her. Emma tried to push through the negative thoughts, but they were persistent, whispering in her mind that maybe she wasn't good enough. She'd wonder if it was all a waste of time. It was hard to focus on anything other than the pressure that weighed on her chest, the fear of falling behind in life. Sometimes, it felt like she was moving backward, not forward. At night, when Emma lay in bed, she would replay the day in her head, what went wrong, what she could have done better. She couldn't escape the nagging feeling that maybe she wasn't meant for this life. Perhaps she wasn't meant for success, for happiness. These thoughts were amplified by the people around her, the ones who told her to get a grip and stop dreaming so big. Everyone seemed to have their own version of what she should do with her life, but Emma felt torn. She wanted to follow her own dreams, but they seemed so far out of reach. The gap between where she was and where she wanted to be seemed impossibly wide. As time passed, Emma's inner frustration grew. She had tried everything she could think of, from working late nights to networking with colleagues. Yet, every day felt like a struggle just to keep her head above water. She was tired, physically, emotionally, and mentally. The idea that she was failing began to take root in her mind. She felt alone, as though no one understood what she was going through. It was as if everyone else had the answers except her. But deep down, Emma knew something was missing. Something in her had to change, but she didn't know where to start. Her life, once full of promise, was now defined by obstacles, and with every setback, she grew more distant from her dream of a successful, fulfilling life. Every challenge seemed to confirm her fear that she wasn't capable of making it on her own. The struggles she faced didn't seem to be shaping her into the person she wanted to be. Instead, they were breaking her down. Emma needed something to change, she just didn't know how to make that change happen. But one thing was certain, the journey ahead would be far from easy. One evening, after yet another exhausting day, Emma found herself sitting in her small apartment, staring out the window. The city lights outside seemed to shimmer, but she felt completely numb. It was then that she received an unexpected call from an old friend, Sarah, who had recently become a mentor to Emma in a way she never anticipated. Sarah, someone who had faced similar struggles in her own life, knew exactly what Emma was going through. After a brief catch-up, Emma opened up about everything: the pressure, the self-doubt, and the feeling of being stuck. Sarah listened patiently, letting Emma voice everything she had been bottling up. When Emma finished, Sarah shared her own story of how she had been in the exact same position a few years ago. She had faced the same fears of failure, the same doubts that were now consuming Emma. But Sarah had learned one crucial lesson: the biggest barrier to success wasn't external, it was internal. She told Emma, "We are often afraid to fail because we don't see failure as part of the process. But what if we saw it as feedback instead of defeat?" That single sentence sparked something inside Emma. She had always seen her failures as signs that she wasn't good enough, but maybe there was a different way to look at them. The next day, Emma woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew she had to shift her mindset. Instead of focusing on everything that could go wrong, she began to focus on what she could control: her efforts, her decisions, and her attitude. Emma started to take small, but significant steps. She reassessed her goals and realized that they weren't as far out of reach as they once seemed. Instead of trying to impress others with a perfect image of success, Emma decided to pursue what truly mattered to her. She started taking on projects at work that aligned with her passion, even though they seemed risky. She reached out to colleagues she admired for advice and mentorship, no longer afraid of being judged for asking questions.